Very happy that you're doing a review of your visit. Many a time it happens that a visit takes place and then after that there's nothing, there's no follow-up or anything of the sort. I want to commend the entire team, the chamber, the sister city project office bearers for going to North Africa, for going to Tunis and going to Morocco. I will just seek your indulgence for a couple of moments, being a Foreign Service officer, and give you the view from the Foreign Office, how we see the global landscape unfolding in the years ahead, if not decades ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, diplomacy today is now all about business and trade. Let me be very clear with you. The days of abstract geopolitical positions are gone, especially when COVID hit and all economies all over the world were impacted and governments were scrambling to look after their people. This thing came into fine focus that governments have to focus on trade, investment and economy. So this is the first thing. The second major development which has taken place late last year is the election of Mr. Donald Trump as the President of the United States. There is an old saying that when an elephant sneezes, the whole jungle catches a cold. Well, this elephant happens to believe in tariffs. This elephant believes in America first. This elephant believes in isolationism. This elephant also believes in only American industry, American production for American people. And he is also against immigration. Today, your children, my children, our children, they are going to face continued difficulty in going abroad to study, in going abroad to work, in going abroad to travel. All of you are aware, you are all business people, you travel around the world. Already the squeeze is very visible. Now, what is the solution? We have to be very candid and we have to be very pragmatic. The solution lies in South-South cooperation. The time for Pakistani businesses to try and easily expand their market share in places like America and the EU and the Middle East are over. All of you know better than myself that there is a reverse migration from the Middle East. I can share one figure with you that in 3 years, 200,000 Pakistanis have come back from UAE alone on one-way visas. They are not going to be going back. Today, the question when you go to a European embassy is not the visa. It is the appointment of the visa. Now the jhagda, if I may use, I'm sorry, I'm from Lahore and I'm a Punjabi, so I will mix a little bit. It's because of the presence of our colleague from Tunis that I'm speaking English. Otherwise, I would speak in Urdu and Punjabi. But today's jhagda is not over the visa. It is over the appointment date. So the trend is very obvious. But there is a solution. And the solution, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends and colleagues, is the great continent of Africa. And why do I say this? It is the great continent of Africa because these 54 countries have frankly been ignored by Pakistani businesses and the Pakistani government for the last 50 years. We as Pakistanis have been supporting so many of the freedom movements in Africa because we got our independence in 47 and the vast bulk of freedom took place in Africa between 1950 and 1970 even. In those 20 years as a policy, Pakistan was a brave, strong country, although a very young country. And let me tell you that we had the courage and the vision to give passports to the leaders, the freedom fighters of many countries, including Tunis. And they still keep the passport in the national museums and these places because it was on the basis of Pakistani passports that the freedom fighters of countries like Morocco and Tunis and Algeria, they used to travel around the world and plead their case for their freedom, which they ultimately got. So, ladies and gentlemen, the goodwill is there. But you cannot wave one passport for 100 years and then expect smiles all around. It doesn't work that way. Today, you have to establish business, trade, and investment linkages. Whether it is olives being grown in Pakistan from Tunisian seeds, whether it is Pakistani textile being sold in Morocco for their kaftan, whether it is, have you ever heard of any LNG or petroleum coming from Algeria? You would never have heard this. We don't bother. Algeria is one of the richest countries in the world in terms of oil and gas. Have we ever made an effort? I will tell you, because I went 10 years ago. The last interministerial conference with Algeria took place in 2011 or 12. I went with the then Minister for Petroleum. That's only 13 years ago. Tell me, when is the last time a president or prime minister from Pakistan went to Africa? Let me tell you, it was Musharraf and Shaukat Aziz. Some of you, including Hassan Saab, are too young even to remember those guys. So the focus has to come on this great continent of 54 countries. And let me tell you that while we are still not fully engaging with this continent, the whole world is not running, they are flocking to Africa. And ask me why. The biggest reserves of natural resources and raw materials in the world, whether it is wood, whether it is metal that goes into your phone, whether it is the stuff that goes into your electric car battery, everything is found in Africa. That is number one. The second thing is that it is a market of 1.6 billion people. Ladies and gentlemen, 1.6 billion people, and 1 billion are under the age of 21. So there is a youth bulge. Every child has got a phone and everyone wants to wear new jeans, get a new t-shirt, buy a cricket bat or buy a football, buy a cap. So that market is there. It's a huge market. So these are the two most important things that exist over there. And the third thing is that it is a continent which is coming out of conflict and strife. And I would say roughly out of the 54, now 40 countries are totally stable. And the governance is good. They have industrial zones, they have economic zones, they have ports. Let me give you one example. The smallest country in Africa, if not the smallest, one of the 5 smallest, is Djibouti. It is 23,000 square kilometers. The population is half of Islamabad, sir. 1 million people. They have got 5 ports. And one port that they have just built has 1.2 million containers in and out per year. Now, please tell me, we have been talking about establishing a new port in Balochistan for the last 25 years. I checked up. There were 18 ships which came last year, 18. And you say it is going to turn into Dubai. So we have to focus on Africa. It's a very good initiative. Sister city is a known phenomena around the world. There is also a proposal to twin Karachi and Casablanca. The problem that does happen is that the local governments change frequently. And in our system, of course, usually there is no local government also. So this is an impediment. So the Sister City project as a door opener, as a goodwill creator is excellent. But ladies and gentlemen, the real work has to be done not by the government. We can only open the door, we can connect the dots, we can put you in front of each other. Ultimately, it is the goods of services of Pakistan that need to go there. It is the investment of Pakistan that needs to go there. There is so much opportunity for investment also that we are not looking at. I'll just give you one example. When I was landing in Ethiopia, I looked down and I asked the person sitting next to me, he was Ethiopian. I said, what's going on? He said, what do you mean? I said, what are all these lights? He said, which lights? I said, all of these lights. So he gave me a strange look. He said, which lights? I said, don't you see all these lights? He said, this is normal. I mean, there was so much light that when I got off the plane, the first question I asked my ambassador is, how much does electricity cost? He said, sir, aap ye kyun pooch rahe hain? Why are you asking? I said, because I saw so much lighting in the city. He said, it's 5 cents per unit. 5 cents per unit, sir. You would know better than me what the price is over here. So there is gas, there are ports, there is connectivity, there is safety, there is electricity, there is a market, there is the raw material. So as business people, what more do you want? The only thing we have to bridge, and here I think people like Solanki Saab, Bakhtawari Saab can play a big role, the ignorance barrier. That is the biggest barrier that lies between that great continent and Pakistan. And because of Pakistan's brand name as the first country to become independent, 27 of the countries are Islamic Muslim countries. So you have that connection with them. 27 of the countries are English-speaking countries. So you have that connection with them. And every single country knows of Pakistan as a country which has the capacity to integrate with their economy on a win-win scenario. Last example I will give, because I don't want to take all the time, there are other speakers. The Ugandan foreign minister told me, he said, we have so much agriculture. I have heard that you have good food processing in your country. Please ask somebody to come here. Each one of the countries I visited have special economic zones with bijli, pani, gas ready. Port connectivity ready. Now, one of you should go and establish a fruit juice factory, for instance. Somebody can go and start making potato chips. Somebody can start go and making biscuits. Because there is a deficit of industrialization in most of the countries. There are some countries which are in a better shape. There are some countries, I know a young Pakistani in a country called Liberia. Ladies and gentlemen, he is making his living by importing matches ki tiliyan, in containers from Karachi and selling them in Liberia. That's his only job. I know somebody who's exporting rickshaws, the three-wheelers. So please, especially the chamber office bearers who are here, the senior leadership of the chambers, do a little bit of research. My department is available to you at the Foreign Office to guide you, to help you, to assist you. If I were in the private sector, I swear to God, I would not today look at, Europe or America, because the tide has now turned over there. Right-wing governments are coming up in many, many countries. There are people who are against our religion. There are people who are against the color of our skin. There are people who are against our language. There are people who are against our part of the world. They are trying to now get our people out and send them back on one pretext or the other. The GSP Plus story you have seen in the newspapers, that there are more and more conditions, more and more difficulties for us. So this trend is not going to change. For the next 5 to 10 years, we are going to face increasing difficulties in the traditional markets, be it the Middle East, be it America, be it EU. So please establish, especially in the chamber, I will request the chamber leaders, you must establish some kind of an Africa think tank in there. You must start looking at various countries. It's a huge continent. I wish we had a map. From one side to the other, it's a 6-hour flight. From the other side to the other side, it's a 7-8-hour flight. So pick and choose your countries, do a SWOT analysis, whatever little information we have, we are willing to share with you, and increase the awareness amongst your membership of the opportunities which exist, because the concept of South-South cooperation exists. It is well and alive in Africa. I met the chairman of the African Union, which is the membership of the entire 54 countries, and his words also were that we must now look at South-South cooperation, which is win-win for the developing economies of the world. Thank you very much.